Relationships, whether romantic or familial, are built on a foundation of unwavering commitment and dedication. These are the core elements that hold the structure of any bond together, ensuring it stands the test of time and survives the challenges life inevitably throws its way. When we speak of relationships, we often focus on the emotional aspects, love, understanding, affection, but rarely do we acknowledge the depth of commitment required to maintain those feelings and prevent them from eroding over time. In truth, no matter how much we love someone, without commitment and dedication, even the strongest emotional connections can falter. Love, while the most powerful and universal emotion, is not enough to sustain a relationship in the long run. Many of us enter relationships with the belief that love alone will be sufficient to overcome any obstacle. But love, as beautiful and essential as it is, cannot survive without the hard work and effort that comes with commitment. Commitment is the willingness to continue showing up for someone even when times are tough, even when the initial excitement has faded, and when life presents unexpected hurdles. It is the conscious decision to prioritize the other person's well-being, to nurture the bond, and to stay grounded when emotions waver. True commitment means understanding that no one is perfect, including ourselves, and accepting the imperfections of our partner. It is easy to love someone when everything is going well, when we're in a phase of bliss, and the world seems to be aligned perfectly. However, when the honeymoon phase ends and the complexities of daily life take over, that's when commitment is truly tested. The emotions might not always be the same as they were in the beginning, and challenges may arise that question the sustainability of the bond. It is precisely in those moments that dedication is required to rebuild and reinforce the connection. Dedication, often used interchangeably with commitment, goes beyond mere promises. It involves showing up time and time again for the other person, not because you feel obligated, but because you care enough to do so. Dedication is present in the small, everyday acts, the phone calls, the check-ins, the gestures that say, "I am here, no matter what." It is the energy and time you willingly invest into the relationship, knowing that, like any meaningful endeavor, relationships require consistent effort to thrive. Without this active participation, relationships can easily become distant, disconnected, and ultimately lost. Furthermore, commitment and dedication form the bedrock of trust in a relationship. Without trust, no relationship can withstand the pressures of time and adversity. Trust is not something that can be built overnight. It requires consistency, integrity, and reliability. When we are committed to someone, our actions demonstrate that we are trustworthy. We show up when we say we will. We follow through on promises, and we honor the bond we've chosen to nurture. Trust is fragile. A single moment of negligence or deceit can shatter it, and once trust is lost, rebuilding it becomes one of the most difficult tasks in any relationship. However, with unwavering commitment and dedication, trust can not only be rebuilt, but can become even stronger than before. In the absence of commitment, relationships begin to erode slowly, often without either party realizing it. It's in those quiet moments when we stop investing our time and energy, when we become distracted by the busyness of life, or when we start taking our partner for granted, that the connection begins to weaken. If we're not intentional about our commitment, we allow complacency to set in, and before we know it, the distance between us grows. Love may still be present, but without dedication, the relationship becomes a shadow of what it could have been. True commitment also involves resilience, the ability to persevere through difficult moments without abandoning the connection. Life is unpredictable, and no relationship is immune to trials, whether it's financial stress, family issues, or personal challenges. However, when two people are dedicated to each other, they become each other's strength. They support one another through life's difficulties, not as a means of avoiding the pain, but by acknowledging that enduring together can lead to growth. When we are committed, we make a conscious decision to fight for the relationship, to work through the inevitable hardships, and to come out stronger on the other side. On the flip side, when commitment wanes, remains, it is often due to a lack of effort or unwillingness to adapt. Relationships require flexibility, the ability to adjust when things aren't going as expected, and the patience to navigate the rough patches. A committed partner does not expect everything to remain the same forever. Rather, they understand that growth involves change, and with it comes the need to reframe expectations, redefine roles, and reestablish connections. If both individuals are dedicated to growing together, then the relationship has the potential to evolve, no matter what challenges it may face. At the heart of commitment and dedication lies the understanding that relationships are not static. They are living entities that require nourishment, attention, and care. Just as a plant needs water, sunlight, and attention to grow, so too does a relationship need time, effort, and mutual respect to flourish. Without these elements, the relationship may wither away, despite the love that exists between the two people involved. Love alone can never replace the effort required to maintain a bond, and that effort, rooted in commitment and dedication, is what allows relationships to endure. In the end, relationships are not about perfection. They are about the willingness to continuously commit, to give our time and energy, and to show dedication when things aren't easy. Love can fade, emotions can change, but a commitment to stand by each other, to work through challenges, and to grow together can keep the relationship alive and thriving no matter the circumstances. Without this unshakable commitment, even the deepest love cannot survive the test of time. Communication is often regarded as one of the most fundamental aspects of any relationship, yet its true value is frequently overlooked or misunderstood. When we think of communication, we tend to focus on the words exchanged, the information shared, or the surface-level conversations that occur. However, true communication goes far beyond the act of talking. It is about listening deeply, empathizing genuinely, and striving for mutual understanding. In relationships, whether they are personal, familial, or professional, open and honest communication plays a vital role in resolving misunderstandings and building trust. At the heart of effective communication is the ability to be transparent and vulnerable. Open communication allows individuals to express their thoughts, feelings, and concerns without fear of judgment or dismissal. This openness creates an environment in which both parties feel safe to share, knowing they will be heard and respected. Without this foundation of honesty, it becomes difficult for any relationship to thrive. The willingness to be honest about one's emotions, needs, and desires fosters a deeper connection because it allows both individuals to truly understand each other instead of making assumptions based on incomplete information or misunderstandings. But honesty alone is not enough. True communication requires a commitment to accuracy, a skill that is often overlooked in today's fast-paced, distraction-filled world. Listening is not just about hearing words. It is about giving your full attention to the speaker, understanding the intent behind their words, and making an effort to comprehend their perspective. Active listening means being present in the moment, free from distractions, and fully engaged with the person speaking. When we listen attentively, we validate the other person's emotions and experiences, signaling that their thoughts are important and worthy of consideration. This act of truly listening helps to prevent misunderstandings, as it encourages both parties to clarify their feelings and intentions, ensuring that the message received is the message intended. Moreover, listening requires empathy. It's not enough to simply hear someone's words. We must also seek to understand their emotional state, their background, and the circumstances that may be influencing their perspective. Empathy allows us to step into the other person's shoes and experience the world from their point of view. This is crucial when misunderstandings arise, as it enables us to respond with compassion rather than defensiveness. When we listen with empathy, we not only acknowledge the other person's feelings, but also demonstrate that we care about their emotional well-being. This empathetic approach encourages openness as it reassures the speaker that their vulnerability will be met with understanding rather than criticism. Honest communication, coupled with active listening and empathy, is particularly important when conflict arises. Disagreements are an inevitable part of any relationship, but how we communicate during those times can determine whether the conflict is resolved or escalated. In moments of tension, it is easy to fall into the trap of speaking without thinking, of reacting impulsively rather than responding thoughtfully. However, it is in these moments that communication is most critical. When faced with a misunderstanding, both parties must be willing to express their concerns in a way that fosters understanding rather than division. This involves choosing words carefully, maintaining a calm tone, and focusing on the issue at hand rather than resorting to personal attacks or blame. At the same time, both individuals must be willing to listen without interrupting or dismissing the other person's point of view. A common pitfall in communication is the tendency to become defensive when confronted with criticism or differing opinions. However, defensive behavior often leads to further miscommunication and alienation. Instead of responding immediately with a rebuttal, it is far more productive to pause, take a deep breath, and listen to the other person's perspective fully. This pause allows time for reflection and prevents us from saying something in the heat of the moment that could harm the relationship in the long run. Building trust is another key benefit of open and honest communication. Trust is the cornerstone of any healthy relationship, and it can only be nurtured through consistent, transparent, and respectful dialogue. When we communicate openly and honestly, we demonstrate integrity and reliability, both of which are essential for building trust. Trust is not something that can be given freely. It must be earned through repeated actions that show we are dependable and trustworthy. When one person withholds information or hides their true feelings, trust is compromised and the relationship becomes fragile. However, when both parties communicate with honesty and transparency, they lay the groundwork for trust to flourish. Effective communication also involves recognizing and addressing the emotional needs of others. We all have different ways of expressing ourselves, and what may seem like a small issue to one person can be deeply meaningful to another. In these situations, communication becomes a tool for understanding and addressing the emotional undercurrents that influence behavior. By tuning into the emotions beneath the words, we can better respond to the needs of our partners, friends, or family members. This deeper level of communication fosters emotional intimacy, which is critical for forming strong, resilient bonds. Furthermore, open communication allows for the resolution of past misunderstandings, which can otherwise fester and cause long-term harm to a relationship. Many conflicts are rooted in misinterpretations or assumptions, and without the opportunity for honest dialogue, these misunderstandings can linger, creating distance between individuals. By addressing these issues openly, we give ourselves the chance to clear the air, correct any misconceptions, and move forward with a deeper sense of mutual respect and understanding. However, it is essential to remember that communication is a two-way street. It is not enough to simply speak your truth. It is equally important to create space for others to do the same. This means allowing the other person to express themselves fully without interruption, judgment, or criticism. It means fostering an environment in which both individuals feel valued and heard. In this way, communication becomes a powerful tool for resolving conflict, building trust, and creating lasting connections. In the end, open and honest communication is the key to resolving misunderstandings and building trust. It is the foundation upon which all healthy relationships are built, and it requires both speaking and listening with authenticity and empathy. By committing to this level of communication, we create a space in which both individuals can grow, understand each other more deeply, and navigate the challenges of life together with mutual respect and compassion. Without it, relationships will struggle to survive, for communication is not just a tool for resolving issues, it is the lifeblood that sustains them. Relationships, whether romantic, familial, or platonic, are rarely without their challenges. Life is full of unexpected twists and turns, and no one is immune to hardship. Yet, it is during the most trying times that relationships are either strengthened or torn apart. The hard times, the moments of adversity, are often the true tests of the bond between two people. It is in these moments that the foundation of a relationship is either solidified or cracked beyond repair. The ability to weather storms together is what distinguishes lasting relationships from fleeting ones. And this resilience in the face of adversity is what allows connections to endure. Every relationship, regardless of how strong or loving it may seem, will encounter difficulties. These challenges can come in many forms: financial stress, health issues, misunderstandings, distance, betrayal, or simply the strains of everyday life. No relationship is exempt from facing adversity, and these hard times can feel overwhelming, testing the patience and emotional strength of both parties involved. At these moments, it may seem easier to walk away, to give in to the temptation of surrendering to frustration, disappointment, or hurt. However, this is where resilience becomes crucial. Resilience is not just the ability to bounce back after difficulty. It is the capacity to face hardship with a spirit of determination and a willingness to fight for what matters most. In the face of adversity, relationships are often tested by the choices we make. Do we choose to blame one another, or do we come together to understand each other's pain? Do we close ourselves off, or do we open up and communicate honestly, even when it's difficult? These decisions are what shape the trajectory of the relationship. While it may be tempting to succumb to negative emotions like anger, resentment, or bitterness, true strength lies in the ability to push past those emotions and seek resolution. In many ways, these hard times serve as a crucible in which the true character of a relationship is revealed. Will it emerge stronger with a deeper sense of understanding, trust, and intimacy? Or will it dissolve, unable to withstand the weight of the adversity? One of the most important aspects of resilience in relationships is the willingness to fight for the bond. A relationship, like any worthwhile endeavor, requires effort and dedication. It is easy to take the connection for granted when things are going well, when life is smooth, and there's no tension between the two people involved. However, when challenges arise, it is the willingness to stand by one another and fight through the difficulties that can make all the difference. This fighting spirit doesn't always mean arguing or forcing solutions, but rather it means a commitment to face the challenge together with a shared sense of purpose and determination. It means choosing to invest in the relationship even when the future seems uncertain. Resilience in relationships also requires emotional maturity, the ability to confront uncomfortable emotions without letting them control our actions. Adversity often triggers intense emotions, and in the heat of the moment, it can be easy to react impulsively, saying things we don't mean or making decisions that are driven by momentary frustration. But emotional maturity allows us to pause, reflect, and choose how we respond. It means recognizing that conflict is not necessarily the end of the relationship, but rather an opportunity for growth. In times of hardship, those who are resilient don't shy away from the discomfort. Instead, they lean into it, allowing it to push them toward a deeper understanding of themselves and each other. Being resilient also means having the courage to forgive and let go of past grievances. When faced with a challenge, it's easy to dwell on past mistakes or to bring up old wounds. However, this only prolongs the pain and prevents healing. True resilience in a relationship is shown through the willingness to move forward, to accept apologies, and to release the burden of past hurt. It is a recognition that holding on to resentment only poisons the relationship and hinders progress. This doesn't mean that the pain is forgotten, but rather that both individuals understand that the only way to move forward is to release the emotional weight of the past and focus on the present and future. Moreover, resilience in relationships requires a shared sense of vision, an understanding of why the relationship matters in the first place. When times get tough, it can be easy to lose sight of what initially brought two people together. It's essential, however, to reconnect with the deeper purpose of the relationship and remind each other of the values and goals that bind you. This shared vision acts as a guiding light, helping both individuals navigate through the storm. It encourages them to keep going even when the road ahead seems uncertain or filled with obstacles. A relationship without a sense of shared purpose is more likely to falter under the weight of adversity. But a relationship grounded in mutual understanding and a commitment to a common goal can withstand even the toughest challenges. The importance of resilience also extends to how we support each other during difficult times. A resilient relationship is one where both individuals are not only willing to fight for the bond, but also able to be there for each other in ways that are meaningful and supportive. It's about showing empathy, offering reassurance, and being a source of comfort when things feel overwhelming. Relationships thrive when both partners are invested in each other's well-being, emotionally and physically. Being resilient means being there for each other, not just when things are easy, but when it feels like the world is against you. It's about showing love through action, not just words. When facing adversity, it is also crucial to remember that resilience doesn't mean perfection. There will be setbacks, moments of doubt, and instances when things feel as though they're unraveling. The key is not in avoiding difficulties, but in having the strength to rise above them. Relationships aren't defined by the absence of challenges, but by how the individuals involved navigate those challenges together. A relationship is made not in the ease of happiness, but in the grit of perseverance and mutual dedication. It's in the shared decision to keep going, to trust each other through the storm, and to emerge from it stronger, more united, and with a deeper sense of love and respect. In the end, relationships face many challenges, and the hard times are where true growth occurs. Adversity tests our commitment, patience, and strength, and it is in these moments that we must show resilience. The ability to fight for the bond, to support each other, and to trust in the relationship's potential is what separates those that endure from those that break. Relationships are not made of perfect moments, but of imperfect moments where resilience, love, and determination shine through. For a relationship to thrive, it is essential that both partners remain self-aware and committed to growth, not just as individuals, but as a unit. Relationships are dynamic and constantly changing, and the individuals within them must be willing to evolve alongside one another. If one partner remains stagnant while the other continues to grow, the imbalance can create tension and distance, making it difficult for the relationship to flourish. This constant growth and evolution, both as individuals and as a couple, are the lifeblood of a healthy, thriving partnership. Self-awareness is the first crucial step in this process. Being self-aware means understanding who you are, what you need, and how you affect others. It involves a deep reflection on your actions, emotions, and behaviors, and how they contribute to the relationship. Self-awareness allows each partner to recognize their strengths and weaknesses, to identify their needs, desires, and boundaries, and to take responsibility for their actions. Without this awareness, misunderstandings can arise, as one partner may be unaware of how their actions or attitudes are impacting the other. This lack of self-awareness can lead to resentment, frustration, and a breakdown in communication. When both partners are self-aware, they are better equipped to navigate the challenges that arise in relationships. They are more likely to communicate openly and honestly, acknowledging their own needs and vulnerabilities, while also being sensitive to the needs of their partner. This kind of openness fosters trust and creates a foundation of understanding, where both partners feel seen, heard, and respected. It allows for the free flow of thoughts and emotions, which is essential for conflict resolution and emotional intimacy. Self-awareness also leads to emotional maturity, which is vital for relationship growth. Emotional maturity involves the ability to regulate one's emotions, to recognize when to compromise, and to understand that not everything needs to be an argument or a battle. It means being able to express emotions in healthy, constructive ways, rather than letting them simmer into anger, frustration, or resentment. A self-aware person can take a step back when emotions run high, reflect on the situation, and respond thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. This maturity allows for deeper communication, better understanding, and greater harmony in the relationship. However, self-awareness alone is not enough. Personal growth must also be an ongoing process. For a relationship to thrive, both partners must actively pursue personal development, whether in their careers, emotional lives, or spiritual journeys. This growth is crucial because it ensures that both individuals are continually evolving, bringing fresh perspectives, new ideas, and a greater understanding of themselves and each other to the relationship. Personal growth enhances the relationship by ensuring that both partners remain engaged and curious, continually striving to be the best versions of themselves. It prevents complacency, which can lead to stagnation, and encourages both partners to push each other toward greater fulfillment. If one partner remains stagnant while the other grows, it can lead to an imbalance in the relationship. The partner who is growing may begin to feel unsupported, as if their efforts are not being matched, or they may feel as though their partner is no longer on the same level, emotionally or intellectually. This can create frustration, resentment, and even a sense of loneliness. On the other hand, the partner who is stagnant may feel overwhelmed or insecure, struggling to keep up with the changes happening in the relationship. This imbalance can strain the relationship as both partners are no longer evolving together. Over time, this divergence can create a sense of disconnection, making it difficult for the relationship to continue to thrive. For a relationship to truly flourish, both partners must commit to growing together, not just as individuals. This means that personal growth should be seen as a shared journey where both partners support one another in their individual goals while also finding ways to grow and evolve as a couple. Growth together can take many forms. It may involve learning new skills together, exploring new hobbies, engaging in shared experiences, or deepening emotional intimacy. It may also involve growing spiritually or intellectually, challenging each other to think critically and expand one's worldview. By growing together, both partners create a sense of shared purpose, and this sense of purpose strengthens the bond between them. Growing together also requires adaptability. Life is full of change, and relationships are no exception. As individuals, we will go through different phases of life, each with its own challenges and milestones. A relationship that thrives is one where both partners are willing to adapt to these changes and continue to evolve alongside them. This means being open to new experiences, learning how to navigate the complexities of life, and being flexible enough to support each other through the inevitable ups and downs. A relationship in which both partners are committed to growing together will have a resilience that allows it to weather even the most difficult of storms. This shared growth also involves the ability to compromise and to meet each other halfway. Relationships require both give and take, and the ability to find balance between individual needs and the needs of the partnership is key to maintaining a healthy dynamic. It requires communication, patience, and a willingness to prioritize the relationship over individual desires when necessary. Growth in this sense is not just about personal development, but also about learning how to support one another through life's challenges, navigating the complexities of emotions, and finding common ground. Moreover, growing together in a relationship requires a deep commitment to mutual respect. Each partner must recognize and honor the other's individuality, acknowledging that personal growth is an ongoing process. This respect ensures that both partners feel supported and valued even as they change and evolve. It fosters an environment in which both individuals feel empowered to pursue their own goals while also nurturing the connection they share. In relationships, growth and self-awareness are not just individual endeavors, but are intertwined with the growth of the partnership itself. When both partners are committed to evolving, they not only create a stronger, more resilient connection, but they also deepen deepen their emotional intimacy and build a stronger foundation for the future. Stagnation, on the other hand, can cause friction, distance, and disconnection. For a relationship to truly thrive, both partners must evolve together, supporting each other through the process of growth and change. This shared journey of personal and relational development creates a bond that is not only strong but also dynamic, adaptable, and enduring. True love, in its most profound and enduring form, often requires sacrifice. It's not just about the grand gestures, the romantic declarations, or the effortless moments of joy. It is, in fact, often about the quiet sacrifices that individuals make for the sake of the relationship, the willingness to let go of their egos, and the ability to make compromises that support the well-being of the bond they share with another person. This notion of sacrifice is a crucial, sometimes uncomfortable, but undeniably important aspect of love. It goes beyond mere selflessness. It requires an understanding that love is not just about what we receive, but also about what we are willing to give, sometimes at the expense of our own desires or needs. One of the most significant sacrifices in love is the ability to let go of one's ego. Ego often gets in the way of deeper connections. It is that part of us that desires to be right, to be in control, to be seen or heard in a particular way in a relationship. The ego can cause conflict, foster resentment, and prevent honest communication. When one partner's ego is constantly on display, whether in the form of stubbornness, defensiveness, or pride, it becomes difficult to nurture the vulnerability and openness that love requires. To truly love someone, we must be willing to set aside our ego and prioritize the relationship over our individual need for validation or recognition. Letting go of the ego is not about diminishing one's sense of self-worth or abandoning one's individuality. Rather, it is about recognizing that in love, there are moments when the needs and feelings of the other person must take precedence over our own. It's about finding a balance between honoring our own desires and showing the same level of consideration to our partner's feelings. Sacrificing the ego means being humble enough to admit when we are wrong and understanding that being right is not always the most important thing. In fact, sometimes the best way to preserve the integrity of a relationship is by choosing peace over pride, understanding over victory. Moreover, sacrifice in love often requires making compromises, sometimes on small things and sometimes on much larger, more significant matters. In any relationship, no two people are exactly alike, and it's natural for differences to arise. Each person brings their own values, experiences, and perspectives to the relationship, which can sometimes lead to conflicting desires or needs. Sacrifices and compromises are necessary to find common ground and to ensure that both partners feel seen, heard, and valued. It's the act of meeting halfway, of negotiating one's needs for the good of the relationship. Compromise can take many forms. It may mean adjusting your plans for the sake of your partner's needs, relinquishing certain personal habits or preferences that cause friction, or even making life-altering decisions that align with the desires of both individuals. True love involves recognizing that a healthy relationship is not about one person getting everything they want, but about both individuals giving and taking, sometimes in ways that stretch them outside of their comfort zones. It is about understanding that sometimes we must give up our own way to create space for our partner's needs, dreams, and aspirations. This kind of sacrifice fosters mutual respect, as both individuals are willing to bend and adapt in ways that contribute to the overall health and happiness of the relationship. Love also requires the sacrifice of time and energy. In a world where everyone is juggling their own responsibilities and aspirations, relationships demand that we prioritize one another. It's easy to become absorbed in one's own life, career ambitions, personal projects, social obligations, but love requires attention and dedication. Sacrificing time for the sake of the relationship means setting aside personal interests, carving out moments moments to connect and being there for your partner in their moments of need. This could mean foregoing personal time to support them during a challenging period or making an effort to spend quality time together even when your schedule is full. Sacrifice in love is not about keeping score. It's about the willingness to invest in the relationship to ensure that both partners are nourished and cared for. In addition, love often requires the sacrifice of one's own emotional needs, particularly during difficult or challenging times. There are moments in every relationship when one partner may be going through a particularly hard time, be it emotional, financial, or personal struggles, and the other must step up, offering emotional support even when they too are dealing with their own issues. True love means being there for each other when it's not easy, when the circumstances are not ideal, or when you feel like you need care as much as your partner does. It means making the emotional sacrifice of setting aside your own frustrations to offer comfort, encouragement, or a listening ear when your partner is in need. This emotional sacrifice can be exhausting at times, but it is also incredibly rewarding as it deepens the emotional connection between both partners and strengthens the relationship. Sacrifice in love is not about martyrdom, nor is it about depleting oneself in the process. True love does not expect one partner to bear the weight of the relationship alone or to continuously sacrifice their own needs without reciprocity. Healthy love is mutual, and both partners should be willing to give of themselves for the well-being of the relationship, just as they should also feel supported and cared for in return. When both partners are committed to sacrificing for each other, the relationship becomes a source of strength and unity as each person feels valued and prioritized. Letting go of ego and making compromises often means embracing vulnerability. It's about acknowledging that the relationship may require us to change, to let go of old habits, or to adapt in ways we didn't anticipate. It can feel like a risk, and sometimes it may even feel uncomfortable. However, true love is built on the foundation of vulnerability, of showing up as one's authentic self and being willing to grow together, even if it means making sacrifices along the way. Ultimately, love's sacrifices are not burdens or sacrifices in the traditional sense. Instead, they are acts of selflessness that contribute to the well-being and growth of both individuals and the relationship as a whole. They represent the deep commitment to one another, the willingness to put the relationship first, and to ensure that the bond remains strong, resilient, and full of love. True love at its core is not just about what we receive, but about what we give. And often it is in the sacrifices we make for the one we love that the strength of our connection is truly revealed. Trust is often regarded as the cornerstone of any successful relationship, whether it's romantic, familial, or professional. It is the invisible thread that binds two individuals together, allowing them to feel secure, valued, and understood. Trust is not something that can be demanded or taken for granted. It must be earned, nurtured, and protected through consistent actions. At the same time, trust is fragile. It can be easily broken by betrayal, dishonesty, or inconsistency. And once damaged, it can leave a wound that takes time and effort to heal. However, trust can also be rebuilt, provided both parties are committed to making the necessary effort and showing sincerity. Understanding the significance of trust, how it is built, and how it can be restored is crucial to maintaining healthy and enduring relationships. The foundation of trust in any relationship is laid through consistent actions over time. It is not enough to simply say that we trust someone. Trust is proven through behavior, through the choices we make, and through the ways in which we show up for each other. In a relationship, trust is built through reliability. When someone is consistent in their actions, when they follow through on their promises, and when they remain dependable during both good times and bad, trust grows naturally. Each positive interaction, each moment where one person proves they can be relied upon, strengthens the trust that exists between them. It is not just about grand gestures or declarations of love, but about the small, everyday actions that demonstrate commitment, respect, and care. Over time, these consistent behaviors create a sense of safety and stability where both partners feel secure in the knowledge that they can count on one another. However, trust is not only about consistency in positive actions, but also about how we handle moments of conflict or challenge. When difficulties arise in a relationship, the way in which trust is navigated speaks volumes about the health of the bond. In times of stress, it's easy to revert to defensive behaviors or to point fingers, but true trust is demonstrated when both partners approach conflicts with openness and a willingness to understand each other's perspectives. This requires vulnerability, being able to admit when we are wrong, apologize sincerely, and take responsibility for our actions. It's about showing that we can be trusted, to handle disagreements with respect and care, not through blame or avoidance, but through constructive dialogue and mutual understanding. In this way, trust is continually reinforced, even in challenging times. While trust can be built through consistent positive actions, it is incredibly delicate. A single act of dishonesty, betrayal, or inconsistency can severely damage the trust that has been established. Trust can be destroyed in an instant, even if the actions leading to its loss are not deliberate. Lies, deceit, broken promises, or behaviors that cause emotional harm can undermine the foundation of trust and create deep emotional wounds. When trust is broken, it can feel as though the very core of the relationship has been shattered. The damage may not always be visible, but it can leave a lasting impact, affecting the way both individuals view each other and their relationship as a whole. In some cases, the loss of trust can lead to a breakdown in communication, emotional distance, and a loss of intimacy. Despite how easily trust can be broken, it is important to understand that trust can also be rebuilt. However, rebuilding trust requires effort, patience, and a commitment to sincerity from both parties. It is not an overnight process. After trust has been damaged, it can take time for the hurt to heal and for both individuals to regain their sense of security in the relationship. Rebuilding trust requires a willingness to be vulnerable and to openly address the issue at hand, acknowledging the hurt and the betrayal. This may involve difficult conversations where emotions are raw and honesty is paramount. The person who has violated the trust must be willing to take full responsibility for their actions without making excuses or deflecting blame. This shows the other person that they are truly sorry and committed to making amends. Rebuilding trust also requires consistent positive actions over time. Words alone are not enough to restore trust. The person who has caused the breach must demonstrate through their actions that they are committed to change and growth. They must prove day by day that they can be trusted again. This might involve making new commitments, such as being more open, transparent, and reliable. It also involves being patient with the other person, understanding that the person who has been hurt may need time to heal and to regain confidence. The journey of rebuilding trust requires both parties to be committed to the process, with the understanding that it will take time and there may be setbacks along the way. There may be moments of doubt or fear, but the key is to remain consistent in efforts to repair the damage and to show sincerity in the desire to restore the bond. The person who has been hurt also plays a significant role in rebuilding trust. They must be willing to allow themselves to heal and to move past the hurt, which is not always easy. Forgiveness is a crucial element in this process, though it should never be rushed. The person who has been betrayed must feel safe in expressing their pain and disappointment, and their feelings must be validated. In time, they must make the decision to allow trust to be rebuilt, which requires letting go of the past and choosing to believe that the other person is genuinely trying to make things right. This decision is not about forgetting what happened, but about being willing to move forward with an open heart. Rebuilding trust involves a delicate balance between understanding the hurt and allowing room for growth and reconciliation. Trust is also strengthened through transparency and openness. When both partners are open with each other about their thoughts, feelings, and actions, trust flourishes. Secrecy and hidden agendas are the enemies of trust. In a relationship where trust has been damaged, transparency becomes even more important. Both individuals must be willing to be open about their needs, their fears, and their vulnerabilities. This openness fosters an environment where both people feel valued and respected, and where trust can gradually be restored. As trust is rebuilt, it is essential that both partners feel safe to express themselves without fear of judgment or betrayal. Ultimately, trust is the foundation of any meaningful relationship. It is built through consistent, reliable actions and maintained through open communication, vulnerability, and respect. Trust can be easily destroyed, but it can also be rebuilt with effort, patience, and sincerity. It requires a commitment from both individuals to not only repair the damage, but to strengthen the bond between them. When trust is restored, it becomes even more resilient than before, fortified by the shared experience of overcoming challenges and growing together. Trust is not just the glue that holds relationships together. It is the foundation that allows them to thrive and endure, no matter what challenges may arise. Relationships, in their truest and most intimate form, require us to confront some of our deepest fears, whether it's the fear of rejection, the fear of being hurt, or the fear of the unknown. These anxieties often surface when we open ourselves up to others. It's through vulnerability, however, that we find true connection, not only with the other person, but also with ourselves. The act of allowing ourselves to be seen in our rawest, most authentic state can be terrifying, but it is in this space of vulnerability where the deepest and most meaningful relationships are formed. The fear of rejection is perhaps one of the most common and paralyzing fears in relationships. We fear that if we show our true selves, our imperfections, our quirks, our insecurities, we will be met with rejection or disinterest. We wonder if we will be loved for who we truly are, or if the other person will only accept a version of us that is carefully curated, guarded, and free of flaws. The idea of being rejected can stop us from being open, from sharing our thoughts and feelings, or from taking risks in the relationship. But it is important to recognize that rejection is an inevitable part of life and relationships. It doesn't reflect our worth, but rather the compatibility between us and another person. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable and embrace the possibility of rejection, we release the fear that keeps us stuck in superficial connections and open ourselves up to authentic, meaningful bonds. This fear of rejection is not just about romantic relationships, but also about friendships, family dynamics, and professional connections. We carry this fear into all aspects of our lives, worrying about being judged, misunderstood, or dismissed. But when we confront this fear, when we step out of our comfort zone and open ourselves to others, we invite the opportunity for genuine connection. Rejection, in its most painful form, can serve as a lesson in resilience, teaching us that our self-worth does not depend on the acceptance or approval of others. Rather, it is the courage to be vulnerable, to show up authentically, that creates space for real, lasting connections to flourish. The fear of being hurt is another deeply ingrained fear that arises in relationships. When we allow ourselves to love, to care, and to become emotionally invested in another person, we expose ourselves to the potential of pain. Past heartbreaks, betrayals, and disappointments can leave emotional scars, making us wary of trusting others again. We fear that opening our hearts will lead to heartbreak, emotional turmoil, or rejection. This fear can cause us to build walls around our hearts, to guard ourselves from vulnerability, and to hold back from truly connecting with others. However, it is important to understand that love and connection inherently involve risk. In every relationship, there is always the potential for hurt, but it is in embracing the risk that we experience the fullness of love, trust, and companionship. When we choose to love, we are choosing to be open to both joy and pain. While the possibility of hurt is real, so too is the possibility of healing, growth, and deep emotional fulfillment. It is through embracing vulnerability that we create the opportunity for mutual support, comfort, and understanding in times of difficulty. True connection in a relationship is not about avoiding pain or protecting ourselves from hurt, but about being willing to experience all that comes with loving and being loved. Vulnerability allows us to feel deeply and to connect on a level that goes beyond surface interactions. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we invite the possibility of not only experiencing pain, but also healing from it, together with the other person. Another fear that often arises in relationships is the fear of the unknown, the uncertainty of what the future holds. Whether it's the fear of commitment, the fear of long-term consequences, or simply the fear of stepping into uncharted territory, the unknown can be overwhelming. Relationships often require us to take risks, to invest in someone or something without fully knowing what lies ahead. The fear of the unknown can create hesitation, doubt, and insecurity, making us question our choices and our readiness for deeper commitment. Yet it is in embracing the unknown that we experience the fullness of life and connection. Relationships are not meant to be predictable or controlled. They are meant to evolve, grow, and surprise us in ways we could never have anticipated. The fear of the unknown keeps us tethered to a comfortable, predictable existence. But it is only by stepping into the unknown that we can discover the true depth and potential of a relationship. The future may be uncertain, but it is through embracing that uncertainty that we learn to trust, to take leaps of faith, and to build something meaningful with another person. The unknown is where the magic of love and connection happens, and while it can be intimidating, it is also where we find growth, transformation, and new possibilities. Vulnerability is the key to overcoming these fears. It is through vulnerability that we open ourselves to true connection. To be vulnerable is to allow ourselves to be seen fully, without pretense, without guards, without facades. It means exposing our fears, our insecurities, our desires, and our imperfections to another person. In vulnerability, we give the other person the chance to truly understand us, and in turn, to offer their own authentic self in return. It is in this space of mutual openness that relationships deepen and flourish. The beauty of vulnerability lies in the fact that it is a shared experience. When one person is vulnerable, it creates an invitation for the other person to be vulnerable as well. Vulnerability fosters trust, empathy, and emotional intimacy, as it requires both individuals to be open and honest with one another. It allows for real, raw conversations that go beyond surface-level exchanges and tap into the heart of the relationship. When both partners are vulnerable, they create a safe space where both can be fully present with each other, embracing each other's flaws, fears, and desires without judgment. In this sense, vulnerability becomes a powerful tool for connection. It is through allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, to confront our fears of rejection, hurt, and the unknown, that we break down the barriers that separate us from others. We create the opportunity for trust, understanding, and love to grow. The fears we carry are not meant to paralyze us, but to help us recognize the importance of vulnerability in creating deep, lasting connections. Only by confronting and embracing these fears can we experience the fullness of a relationship and find the genuine connection that we all long for. Through vulnerability, we find not only ourselves, but also each other. Forgiveness is one of the most essential and transformative elements in any relationship. It is a gift that is not only offered to others, but also to ourselves, creating the space for healing, growth, and the ability to move forward. In every relationship, whether romantic, familial, or platonic, mistakes are inevitable. No one is perfect, and at some point, everyone will stumble, whether through thoughtless actions, hurtful words, or unintentional neglect. In these moments, the ability to forgive becomes a lifeline, both for the individual who seeks forgiveness and for the relationship as a whole. Mistakes are an inherent part of being human. We all have flaws, triggers, and moments where our actions or words may not align with our intentions. It's easy to hold on to anger or resentment when we feel hurt or betrayed, but doing so can create a toxic environment where healing is impossible. Holding grudges and harboring bitterness only serve to prolong the pain and distance between two people. However, forgiveness allows us to break free from this cycle. It offers an opportunity to release the weight of anger and disappointment and to create the space necessary for understanding, empathy, and renewal. Forgiveness is an act of compassion, not just for the other person, but for ourselves as well. When we forgive, we free ourselves from the burden of negative emotions that prevent us from fully experiencing the present moment. Unresolved hurt can build walls between people, keeping them stuck in a loop of pain and distrust. When we choose forgiveness, we acknowledge that while the hurt was real, holding on to it no longer serves us. We allow ourselves the freedom to let go of past wounds and to embrace the potential for healing. This is a powerful and liberating act as it empowers us to move forward rather than remain anchored in the past. In relationships, forgiveness also nurtures empathy and understanding. When we forgive, we make the conscious decision to see the other person as more than just their mistakes. We choose to acknowledge their humanity and the fact that they too are prone to errors. By recognizing that everyone is fallible, we soften our hearts and create space for healing. Rather than focusing on the wrongdoing, we are able to shift our perspective toward the intention, the remorse, and the possibility for growth. This shift is crucial in rebuilding trust and fostering a deeper emotional connection. When we forgive, we allow the other person the chance to make amends, to show their remorse, and to demonstrate their commitment to positive change. This act of grace not only strengthens the bond between two people, but also fosters mutual respect and compassion. Forgiveness is also necessary for self-healing. Often, when we are hurt, we internalize the pain and blame ourselves for what happened. We may feel responsible for the situation, or we may believe that we somehow deserved the hurt. This self-blame can fester and prevent us from healing, keeping us stuck in a cycle of guilt, shame, and self-doubt. When we choose to forgive, we release ourselves from the burden of this negative self-judgment. Forgiving others is not just about letting go of their mistakes. It's also about freeing ourselves from the emotional shackles that prevent us from moving forward. Forgiveness allows us to process our emotions, to reflect on the situation, and to learn from it without being defined by it. It gives us the permission to heal and to reclaim our emotional well-being. The process of forgiveness is not always easy, especially when the hurt feels deep or the betrayal feels unforgivable. It's important to acknowledge that forgiveness does not mean forgetting or excusing the wrongdoing. It does not mean that we should overlook harmful behavior or allow it to continue. Rather, forgiveness is about releasing the hold that the past has on us so that we can reclaim our power and choose how we respond to the situation. It is an active process that requires time, reflection, and sometimes even the willingness to set boundaries to prevent future harm. Forgiveness does not absolve the other person of responsibility for their actions, but it does allow us to release the emotional burden that keeps us stuck in anger and resentment. It's about reclaiming our own peace and choosing not to let the past dictate our present and future. Forgiveness also plays a critical role in rebuilding trust in relationships. Trust is fragile and can be easily damaged when someone we care about lets us down. However, forgiveness creates an opportunity for trust to be rebuilt over time. When we forgive, we signal to the other person that we are willing to move past the hurt and give them the chance to show their commitment to change. It allows the relationship to grow and evolve instead of remaining stagnant in unresolved conflict. Forgiveness provides the foundation for healing, and through consistent actions, the trust that was lost can be slowly restored. It's important to recognize that rebuilding trust after a breach takes time and effort from both parties. Forgiveness is the first step, but it requires both individuals to work together to demonstrate that the relationship can be trusted again. In any relationship, forgiveness is vital for maintaining emotional intimacy. When we hold on to grudges, emotional walls form between us, making it difficult to connect with the other person on a deeper level. Resentment creates distance, and over time, this distance can erode the bond that once brought two people together. Forgiveness allows us to move past the walls we've built and to approach the relationship with openness and vulnerability. It creates an environment where both partners can share their feelings, admit their mistakes, and learn from each other. This mutual willingness to forgive fosters a deeper level of trust, love, and emotional closeness. Ultimately, forgiveness is is not just about saving a relationship, it's about saving ourselves. It's about freeing ourselves from the chains of anger and resentment and reclaiming the peace that is essential for emotional well-being. When we forgive, we choose to heal, to grow, and to move forward, both as individuals and as part of a shared bond. Relationships are a journey, and mistakes will inevitably occur. But it is through forgiveness that we find the strength to overcome challenges, to deepen our connections, and to create a foundation of understanding, empathy, and love that can withstand the tests of time. Forgiveness is a powerful tool for transformation, offering the opportunity for growth, healing, and renewal in both the relationship and within ourselves.